What's up guys, Rich here. So I thought we would take a look at a Swiss brand that I think is fair to say is better known outside of the United States. But it's a brand that is definitely worthy to be known equally well everywhere else. It's also a brand that I've admired for a long time. It is a brand with a rich and storied history. Let's go check out Cimier's Timesquare. Let's go. And here is Cimier's Timesquare. If we like square watches, or we know our square watches, arguably the two most recognizable square watches would have to be Tag Heuer's Monaco, thanks to Steve McQueen and the film Le Mans, or a Bell & Ross. So if we're not as familiar with Cimier as we are those two other brands, it is worth noting that Cimier also has a really rich and storied history behind it. They were started in 1924 by its founder, Joseph Lappenhaus. And in fact, he grew the brand into a really successful brand really quickly, because by the 1950s, Cimier employed over 500 employees and they were producing over 1.5 million watches annually. That are some staggering numbers, especially for a watch company back in the 1950s. And then if we thought the quartz crisis of the 1970s would force them to close the doors the way they have forced to close the doors for many mechanical watch companies, we would be mistaken. Because Cimier actually continued to thrive, they continued to excel during the quartz crisis. They didn't close their doors, because even though they were known for producing mechanical watches, they adapted by producing their own quartz movements. So Cimier was looking to be bulletproof. They just continued to grow exponentially. But then in 1983, they actually closed their doors. And even though they survived the quartz crisis, the reasons cited for Cimier closing their doors were family reasons. So that could be interpreted as creative differences in the direction that Cimier was headed. But then, fast forward to 2003, where the brand was resurrected, and they moved from Holstein, Switzerland, to where they are currently in Biel, Switzerland. And the direction of Cimier is a really unique one. It's a really good direction that they're headed. They've had some really great watches. I think the Timesquare is definitely one of their staples. But in addition to selling us watches, they actually give us the opportunity to assemble our own Cimier through what they call the Watch Academy. So I'll just briefly touch on that. That is basically a watch building course. And they have different tiers of that. And one of the courses is where you learn about the watches and then you assemble your own watch. And of course, you get to keep that watch. And we'll cover more of those details later. I observed one of those watch building classes, and I can say that they were a lot of fun. And I think it's a really great story that we would have on our hands, saying that I assembled this watch from the very first screw. But like I said, we'll cover that later. And that is a brief history on Cimier. So let's get into the Timesquare. The Timesquare is in 42 millimeters. 49 lug to lug. It's 15 millimeters tall, and it uses a 22 millimeter strap width. So I think when you look at this watch, to me, it is a very handsome, very attractive, a very striking watch. It has a beautiful dial on there. But if you follow me regularly, you know I am a really big fan of movement, or what a watchmaker or brand will do to the movement, and I've always been a fan of its finishing. So the finishing on this is just extraordinary. It is a wonderfully done finishing. So it had that moment when I unboxed it, I just had that ooh moment, because it just had that moment where it just almost like socks you in the face. The finishing is really well done. So even though most brands start off with the same 316L steel, they are not all finished equally well. The subpar finishings will eventually dull rather quickly, actually, and it doesn't pop from the beginning. This doesn't. It's a little harder to show this in front of the camera. This is a very difficult watch to film because of its polished finishing, but it is just shown a lot of love. Smooth, even. It has a lot of depth to this polished finishing that just it makes the watch just ooze quality. Really well done. It's mostly polished, but the lugs are brushed. And then it has that beveling or the polished trim right there before it continues on with the sides of the lug, which is also brushed. Just really well done. The movement is the Valjoux 7750 automatic movement. It is a true automatic 7750, meaning it's not a module on top of the base edda movement for that chronograph. This is one of the most widely used and robust chronograph movements we have, and it is regulated. It is regulated because I know that just by its accuracy. I've been getting plus 2 to 3 seconds a day, and that is well within the COSC standards of -4 seconds to +6 seconds a day. And I think that's something that Cimier needs to do, is I think show more details on their website and have a greater social media presence, because that is a bragging point to talk about regulating their movement, because a stock movement right out of the box will not give us that type of accuracy. So I know just by the accuracy that they've done a great job at regulating this movement. There is their custom rotor, really very attractive movement back there. So now let's get on to the dial. You can see that it has their signature look. If you're familiar with Cimier, it has the markers around the rehaut, and then polished raised hour markers that complement the case really nicely. It has a day and date window at 3 o'clock, and really it has 3 different looking registers. The 30-minute register at 12 o'clock is silver, but it also has that blue trim on the side. The seconds register at 9 o'clock is all black, and then the 6 o'clock 12-hour register is in all silver. So 2 silvers at the top and the bottom, but separated by that blue, and then it has the black. And there is the center of each subdial has another layer on there as well. Just very, very attractive. And the black is not a solid shade of black. It has rings all around, like a disc all around. It's a little harder to see in this angle, but I'll put up some pictures and we'll be able to better see that. There is a lot of depth and layers to this dial. Just very, it's just really hard to take my eyes off this. And when I'm talking about how well, not just how well designed this is, but how well executed this watch is, that is something that most of us don't really think about, right? We just think about how attractive the watch is to us, or how it just speaks to us. But I do like a well-made watch as well, because this is definitely a high-end watch. The pushers are pretty standard. The top pusher will start the central seconds hand, which is a red enamel seconds hand. And I also like that broad arrow hour hand. Just again, a lot of things to like on this style. But again, getting back to the pushers, the top pusher will start and stop. The bottom pusher will reset it. But they are very crisp in their action. So we'll start it up right here. There it goes. Stop it. Reset it. Just has nice action to it. And then when we pull the crown out to set the day and date, one direction, this way we'll set the date. You can hear it really just solid. And then the other direction, we'll set the days of the week. That is more of the silent part. The date clicking is right there. Just very pleasant, a great smooth feel on the crown and the pushers. And then let's talk about the strap, but not really the strap, but I'll explain what I mean by that. It is a thick cut leather strap. It's calf, and then it has this alligator or crocodile print on it. And then it is lined with a soft cloth here that will extend the longevity of the leather strap. But it is a deploying clasp, and this is what I really want to talk about, because not only is it one of the most attractive clasps that we see, and we don't often pay attention to that, it has 2 buttons there that are the release buttons on either side of the clasp, and there's their logo there, nicely polished, although it has some fingerprints on there, but it is just a beautiful clasp. But what I'm talking about is, which is consistent with the crown and the pushers, on how crisp the action is. Listen to this. Again, just solidly made, closes crisply. The pushers are crisp, just really just a well-made watch. Just the kind of high-end watch that we would expect with these kinds of performances. As much as I like this watch, which again, it's just very aesthetically attractive to me and just very well made, there are a couple areas worth noting. One, the dial is not loomed. However, the hour and minute hands are loomed. And while I like loom on a watch, on this type of watch, it doesn't really bother me that only the hour and the minute hands are loomed. The crown is also not a screw down crown, so we're not going to want to go swimming with the watch, but washing our hands at the sink or running from the car in the rain to the house or to the office will be just fine with that, but it is worth noting. The retail price on a Timesquare is roughly $2,700, and for that we are getting a Swiss-made watch, a very attractive watch, a watch that is not trying to be a Monaco or a Bell & Ross. It just has its own unique interpretation with the design and the looks and the case that really makes it stand out. It is a very well-made watch, the kind of watch that we would expect from a high-end watch. And I think if the watch was priced double, we wouldn't really chirp that much because of just how well made and how crisp everything works on the watch, and of course how attractive the watch is. So if we're looking for a very unique looking square watch that I think really stands out and has great wrist presence without being overly gaudy, meaning because of its short lug to lug, it doesn't extend past your wrist bone, especially on my 6.5-inch wrist bone, I think this Timesquare is definitely worth our attention. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time.